Hi there, everybody. Welcome. It's lovely to be involved with an event of this size and super to see so many of you engaging. Just to introduce myself quickly before I share my screen, my name's Amy Stewart. I work for the REACH project, which is a widening access project in Scotland, based in Dundee. We support people who are interested in applying to medicine, dentistry or law, and we frequently run masterclasses on sorry, I'm just seeing, can others hear me? Seeing in the chat there that some folk can't hear. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Thank you. So we frequently run masterclasses around doing personal statements and the importance of them for your university applications. So today, really going to focus on personal statements for medicine and dentistry as health careers, but equally lots of this advice could be really useful for nursing or midwifery or other kinds of health professions as well. So I hope you find this useful. I'm now going to try and share my screen with you. And what I'll do is please do feel free to pop questions in the chat as we go, but I may wait and come back to that at the end of the session, and we'll do a kind of Q&A at the end, just conscious of time, and we want to make sure we get through everything. So I'm going to try and share my screen just now. Bear with me just a second. So I don't know if everybody can see this. Catherine, could you confirm if you can see that for me?
I can't see it yet, Amy.
Oh, sorry. Right, bear with me. Just a moment. I think I'm using a PowerPoint application. Is that okay, or does it have to be in a browser window?
No, the PowerPoint should be fine. Have you already pressed the screen share button at the bottom of the screen?
Yes, I did, yeah. And then do I click application window or, let me just see. Entire screen is what we want to do. And then I want to click this and then say share. Let's hope this works. Right, let's see.
Now.
Oh, super, good stuff. Okay, we're off. Okay, so this is, like I say, a personal statement masterclass specifically looking at medicine and dentistry. But like I say, hopefully lots of help, hints and tips for moving forward. So general things we're going to cover in this session today is the kind of UCAS basics. So obviously if you're applying to medicine or dentistry, you apply through UCAS, and we'll just cover some of the basics there. We'll look at what medical and dental schools specifically are looking for, the kind of skills and qualities and experiences, and how important reflection is in terms of your personal statement. So we'll look at some example statements I've pulled together to kind of draw out the importance of reflecting on your experiences and your skills as well. Then we'll have a little look at structuring your statement and how to go about that, some of the advice that we give. And like I say, we'll try and build in some time for questions at the end as well. I won't be able to stay for the rest of the day, unfortunately, but really happy to receive emails. So I will share my email address later on, and hopefully you can get in touch if there's anything you're unsure of. So making your application, this is done through UCAS. So UCAS administer all of the university applications in the UK. And the deadline for medicine dentistry is the 15th of October. Okay, so if you're applying this year, it'll be the 15th of October 2020. This tends to be set for every year. And it's really good to be aware of that early on, because a lot of your peers who are maybe applying for other subjects will have a later deadline into January. So it's really good that you're aware of that now. And if you are thinking of applying for 2021 entry into medicine or dentistry, then you want to start looking at your application certainly in the next couple of months. So what's included in your application? Well, there are some personal details that you'll need to put in, your name and address and bits and pieces of information like that. There's some additional information just for UK applicants, and your student finance arrangements as well. And again, that's for UK applicants. Your full education history is where you detail your qualifications, so whether they're GCSEs, A-levels, SQA, hires, whatever it might be, that's where you would detail your achievement at school. A teacher reference, and that's really important because within that, your teacher can highlight any kind of obstacles to education you may have had, or any kind of contextual information that you would like to be taken into account for your application. So really good to be aware of that and get organised to ask your teacher about that nice and early. Activities in preparation for higher education is something you can fill in, and that's if you take part in any access programs or things like widening access initiatives, anything like that. You can actually indicate your participation in them on your UCAS application. Statement, which is what we're going to cover today. Now, I was planning on doing am also conscious of time, so we might skip quickly past that, and what I'll do instead is just cover some of the basics of a personal statement just now. So your personal statement, first thing to say is that it is limited in terms of space, all right? As much as we'd love to be able to write thousands of words about why we're keen to be doctors and dentists or work in the health profession, you are limited to 4,000 characters. That's not words, that's individual characters, and that does include spaces. So really, really conscious to be, good to be conscious of that. And you don't have to use all of the space, but certainly I'm sure lots of you will have so much experience and things you want to say that you will end up having to edit down rather than finding things to bulk it out. When you save your personal statement in the track on UCAS, you can see how many characters are still available. And if you've used too many, it'll highlight that as well. So you can keep an eye on that there. And it's really good to preview your statement after you've saved it within the apply function, just to see how it's presenting. Your statement can and should be written in paragraphs. I think sometimes it feels like in the apply section of UCAS where you put in your statement that it kind of looks like one block of text, but that's really not the most legible or nice thing to try and break down for people who are going to interview you, for admissions officers. So please do write in paragraphs the way you would anything else. There isn't a spelling and grammar check within the apply function on UCAS, so please make sure that you are checking your statement that's grammatically correct, that it's polished, aren't any typos. Save as regularly as you can, because apply does time out after 35 minutes of inactivity. So it's really important that you are pressing save and making sure you're not losing anything. Many people like to draft their statement in Word and keep an eye on spelling and grammar there, and read over with others and have guidance teachers check and things as well. And just be conscious if you are using Word that the character and line count within Word might be different to apply due to formatting. So just try and go with what's in apply rather than what Word says you are in terms of characters or line count. The other important thing to say, and you may be aware of this already, is that when you're applying to medical school, or dental school indeed, you can only apply for 4, and your 5th choice on UCAS should usually be for a backup course. That could be in a life science or in anything you like, really. But it is one personal statement for all of your choices, okay? Please be very aware of that. You should not name university specifically unless you're only applying to that one university, because for example if you're applying to Dundee but you mention Edinburgh on your statement, you can imagine that maybe isn't the best thing to do. Also, if you are applying for a backup course in a life science or something similar, don't be too worried about the fact that your application or your personal statement is quite medicine or dentistry focused, because you can pull out common themes and a lot of the skills actually go, they cross over and they are directly transferable. So don't worry too much about that. The other thing I'd quickly say is please keep a copy of your personal statement. That's really, really important, specifically if you're going to be invited to interview. A huge number of medical schools, including will ask you at interview about your personal statement. There will be a station at your multiple mini interviews specifically looking at your personal statement. So it's really, really good that you keep a copy for preparing for that. Additionally, all personal statements are tested for similarity, so please don't use statements or materials that you find online. All personal statements are checked against a library of personal statements that have previously been submitted to UCAS, also against sample statements for a huge number of different websites and other sources, including paper applications and publications. So really, really important that you write something that's true to you and don't try and take samples from elsewhere. So your personal statement is essentially your opportunity to highlight to universities why you are suitable for the course that you're applying to. You really want to tell them why you're interested in their course specifically, why they should consider choosing you, why you're well suited to the course. So that's when our skills and qualities and showing that we have those and have been working on developing those comes in. And what you've done to find out more about student life as a medical or dental student, or life in the profession as a dentist or a doctor. This part of your application is vital. I think there's sometimes people feel like personal statement, what it's actually used for, but please be conscious that at interview you will be asked questions about what you've written. So it's really important that this is a really polished piece of work. Like I say, no grammar mistakes, no typos, and it showcases all of your relevant skills and experiences. And I've put that image there because I really think your statement is about celebrating you and everything that you could bring to your studies at medical or dental school. So how is your personal statement used? And like I say, every university uses your personal statement slightly differently, but all of them will consider them in some way. They'll either be used alongside your qualifications and your teacher reference as part of the screening process, or they'll be used at interview stages. And as I mentioned earlier, most Scottish medical schools tend to have at least one station at interview dedicated to looking closely at your personal statement and asking you to expand on some of the things that you've maybe mentioned in there, whether that's experiences or your reason that you've wanted to study medicine or dentistry. So like I say, it's really good to be familiar with your statement. So what makes a good statement? And this, I suppose, is the question that I get asked most frequently. You know, what should I put in my personal statement? And generally, for any kind of course, admissions officers at universities are really looking for evidence of some of the following. So numeracy and literacy, you know, it's going to be important for any degree that you undertake. An understanding of the course, and we'll come back to that, but that's really around making sure you're familiar with the curriculum and the way that medicine or dentistry is taught at the specific universities that you're applying to. Your motivation and commitment, that's obviously you're going to be doing 4 or 5 years of study, so really important that you can demonstrate that you're committed to that. Independent study skills, and that's something that you'll have a lot more of at university than maybe you've had the opportunity to have at school. So trying to demonstrate that you have some of that and you're building on that, or at least have an awareness that that's something that you need, will be really helpful. Research skills, again, you'll maybe be asked to do research papers or different bits and pieces, so it's important to have a little bit of experience of that. Self-awareness, and that's really important, and we'll revisit that in a few slides' time, but hugely important specifically for being a doctor or a dentist, and it really ties into what Chris was saying in the previous session about you know, doctors and dentists being honest people. Absolutely, they need to still hold their hands up and say, I need help, or I'm not quite sure of that, or these are my strengths and these are maybe my weaknesses, and that's really important again for interview stages. So having some self-awareness. Time management skills, because you'll be juggling lots of different things, lectures, tutorials, seminars. There'll be, if it's medicine and dentistry for you, then you'll be on clinic, or you could be in clinical skills. So there's lots and lots of different things going on, so you need to manage your time. And enthusiasm to go beyond the syllabus, which you all have demonstrated already, actually by attending today. You know, this isn't a school event as such, so it's great that you're going beyond what you have to do at school to find out more. So that's, I guess, general for a personal statement. And when we think about what makes a good personal statement for medicine or dentistry, it really ties into what makes a good doctor or a dentist. Because these are the kind of key skills and qualities that you're going to be building up through your medical school experience, and at the other end you'll come out hopefully as a qualified doctor or dentist. So really it's about reflecting on what we want when we go to visit our dentist or our GP, or if we're taken into A&E, what do we want our health professionals to demonstrate? And there's a whole number, but I've put some examples together here. So commitment, we've already touched on, really important that our health professionals are committed to our treatment and to improving the lives of others, and that they're focused on their patient. Honesty and trustworthiness was covered a little bit by Chris in the last session, but absolutely vital for working in this sector specifically. Be caring, empathetic and respectful. It's often that we'll go embarrassed or a little uncomfortable about what we want to talk to them about. So it's really important understanding and respect you. Independent thinker, obviously, that they can manage as an individual as well as in a team, and be self-critical and self-motivating. Some other key skills, and I touched on this a little bit when I commented in Chris's section earlier, but the importance of communication and interpersonal skills I cannot highlight more. It's vital for medicine and dentistry. So much of your time is going to be spent talking to patients families, your colleagues, you know, other members of staff within the hospital. And these individuals will come from a range of backgrounds, have different abilities and understandings. So it's really important that you start to build really strong communication skills. Problem solving and analysis of information. Obviously, problem solving is fairly obvious in terms of being able to diagnose a patient, and there can be some obstacles in doing that sometimes. Leadership and absolutely teamwork. Doctors are not standalone individuals. They work in huge teams with lots and lots of different members of staff around them. So really important that you can work in a team. Planning and thinking. And this is important because you will at some point be in a very pressured situation working in these professions, whether it's for emergency care or you're in A&E, or you know, you're just stretched on shift and something bad happens. There's a lot to think about. So being able to cope with pressure and organising and multitasking. Again, there's going to be lots of things going on at any given time. So being able to prioritise tasks and organise your workload will be really important as well. So these are some of the things, like I say, that we want to see in our own medical and dental professionals. So these are great things to start thinking about when you're writing your personal statement. Lots and lots of ways that you can demonstrate that, and I've noted some of them in these lists here. Your extracurricular interests, you could be building up skills in this already. Work experience and shadowing, school responsibilities, social involvement through volunteering or anything else that you're doing outside of school. They can all be really good ways of demonstrating that you've got these skills and qualities. Of course, there's lots of other suggestions up there in terms, specifically for dentistry. Manual dexterity is going to be really important. So being able to work in, you know, potentially sometimes children's mouths where there's not a lot of space and tools are quite small. So being able to use your hands is really important for dentistry. But a lot of these are fairly self-explanatory. And like I say, what we look for in our own medical and dental professionals. So some of these things are what we want to be thinking about. And when we're starting to think about structuring our personal statement, my suggestion and what we recommend to our students is to look at the ABC method. And this is really when we get into the importance of reflection, okay? So when writing your personal statement, you want to kind of take this ABC approach when you're talking about your experiences, okay? And let's take, for example, today's session, okay? A, activity. What have you done today? Who have you spoken to? Who have you heard from? Have you taken part in a kind of virtual workshop, and what did you learn there? So give a specific example of an activity that you've been involved in. B is for benefit, and really that's when we need you to reflect on the experiences you're having and tell us what skills you've gained from that. What knowledge have you gained that maybe you didn't have before, or have you got a new understanding of what it is to work in medicine or dentistry or in the health sector more broadly? What new experiences has this given you? And again, it's about being really specific. So today you may have spoken to a doctor earlier on. What did you learn from them, and what kind of skills did they highlight, and how are you then going to take that forward? And then C is the most important one, and I'll be honest, the one that most of the time people forget to do, is linking this back to the course, okay? So if today you have taken part in a kind of virtual activity, let's say it's around suturing or something, it's about, clinical skills like that. You've learned obviously about the skill and you can describe what you witnessed, but how is it important to the course that you're applying to? So always try and relate things back to medicine or dentistry. And this goes for anything. You could be talking about your part-time job working, I don't know, in a supermarket, and you can relate that back to medicine by saying, through this job, I communicate with members of the public, I work in a team, and I know that for medicine, it's really important as doctors do have to work in wider teams with nurses, with radiographers, with anaesthetists, lots and lots of different individuals. And you're linking that back then to medicine. So it's really about making everything on your statement relevant to the course that you're applying to. And again, when we're looking at reflection and structuring your statement, we tend to kind of suggest loosely that there's 3 themes over kind of 3 paragraphs. So we always suggest that you open your statement with why you want to be a doctor or a dentist, and that's really, really important. Think about your motivations. Has it been a personal experience? Has there been a family experience? What's drawn you to want to help others and to work in this specific area? So be clear on that. Again, it's something that very often comes up at interview stages. What have you done to investigate the profession? And again, that's when we can start to look at work experience, any student shadowing you've done, events like today where you've come along and you're hearing from lots of individuals from different sectors and different kind of roles within the profession. And again, that's really reflecting what you gained from attending these experiences and what you gave. And again, that's in terms of your time, in terms of building up those skills. And then why will you be successful in medical or dental school? And that really comes down, I guess, to your extracurricular activities and how you've built up skills in these areas to make you suitable for the chosen profession. So in your sports club, for example, you maybe have a leadership role, or you're working in a team. Communication is really important. These could also be social things, art things. Duke of Edinburgh is obviously a popular one. Voluntary experience is great to be able to say that you've started to, one, build up communication and interpersonal skills, but also that you're working with individuals from lots of different backgrounds and social kind of circles. So really important to be able to reflect on those. So I thought the best thing to do would really be to look at some examples, and excuse my Bugs Bunny gift there if you can see it. But I was trying to find somebody looking a little bit not strong. So the best thing I think we can do is maybe look at some examples together and things to consider for each. So what's the language like? What do we feel about this person's attitude when reading their statement? How relevant is their statement to the course? Are they referring enough to the course and their knowledge of it? Does the statement flow well? What's the opening like? Does it kind of capture you? Is the length okay? Is the content relevant? efficient use of the limited space? Like I say, are you using the characters that you have to demonstrate in the best possible way your suitability for the course? Is the tense correct? And again, that's something that, we speak in a very colloquial way, but it's very important that we don't write like that. So make sure we keep control of the tense that we're using, and linking your interests and skills and qualities to the course. Is that seen? So the first one is a dummy one. It's not a medicine or dentistry one specifically, but I thought I'd pop it on screen maybe just for a minute to let everybody have a little read through. And then what I'll do is I'll jump on and highlight some of the things that we maybe want to take note of. So I'll give you a minute to read over that, and then we'll pop on to the next slide. Okay, I hope everybody's had a chance to give that a quick glance, and I hope everybody also agrees that this is definitely not the strongest statement. It's a dummy one. I'm not making fun of anyone. It's just a mock one that we've put together for the purposes of looking at maybe the strengths and weaknesses. So quite a weak state issues. So we touched on this earlier. As soon as they open the state, it's very, very likely that this individual has applied to other universities. So try and avoid mentioning any institution by name. And speaking of institution, we immediately see in the second sentence that institution has a typo and is spelled incorrectly. And again, grammatically, it's social sciences courses. So it's not a great opening in terms of, capturing the attention, the positive attention of an admissions officer. It's also very generic. There's nothing specific within that. It's just, I've dreamed of coming to Dundee and I've dreamed of studying here, but doesn't tell us why they're interested specifically in history. Then we fall into a trap that many fall into, and it's important for me to highlight now. Please do not list on your statement all of the courses that you're doing at school. This can be seen elsewhere in your application. There will be a whole section where you have to fill in the subjects that you've studied and that you're studying, and we can see that. We can see your achievements and what level you're studying at. So do not waste these precious characters that are limited as it is to tell us a full list of your studies and what you've been doing at school. Also, they say, they're providing this individual with a solid background for university study, but we don't get any expansion on that. How are they providing you with a solid background? What skills are you building up in these areas? So we don't get much from that at all. Then we have a slightly problematic paragraph here, where a world-class historian it's a very lofty thing to say, and it's always something that I think my students struggle with in terms of balancing between sounding arrogant and sounding too humble. I always err on the side of humble. Be confident in your achievements, but also don't try and sound too above yourself either. So world-class historian is maybe not the best thing to say there. If you wrote, I want to become the world's leading brain surgeon, it might sound a little bit silly. If you can understand your history, you can understand the present. I mean, that sentence doesn't tell us anything. It's vague. It doesn't mean anything to anybody. And that they're especially interested in ancient history, especially history concerning Roman Empire, it's just very clunky and clumsy in terms of how they're writing. Again, that last sentence in that paragraph is highlighted because it's very informal. Absolutely amazing to think that this stuff happened for real in the past. You know, it's not the way that we'd want to write when we're putting a personal statement together. Again, we see that they have been captain of a football team and excelled in sport, but they haven't, you know, been able to show us through that it demonstrates their skills in leadership, and by being captain of the team, by excelling in sports. Well, it's very vague again, and what skills do you need to excel in those sports? And the part-time work in a sports store to earn money for uni, you know, again, maybe not the best thing to say. And also, you know, you'll be building up skills that are relevant in working in that part-time job. So tell us about that. Again, I am sure that as the top student of my class, it's not very well phrased, firstly. And again, it's fairly arrogant. I mean, a lot of people applying to university will be the top student in their class, but then amongst thousands of other people who are also applying as top students in their class, again, your is grammatically incorrect there. And then we get this kind of silly, I'm positively electrified at this prospect. You know, it's not the language that we would use in a statement. It's over the top, really. And we cover, you know, specifically the problems here. So spelling and grammar, a lot of mistakes there. We waste space listing courses. There's clumsy descriptions, over the top and unrealistic expressions. So that world-class historian and you know, being top in the class. Colloquial and floral language, and that's again something to be cautious of, that positively electrified. And you know, we never like to see that. Just be honest and tell us simply why you want to do the course that you're applying to. That cliche opening, you know, I've dreamed of doing this since I was young, that might be true, but give us a reason why that's your dream, and tell us a bit more in detail about that. Again, it only mentions Dundee, but they're likely to apply elsewhere. It's a bit short overall. The next one that you'll see goes over 2 slides, and we'll just talk through that one together. Past tense is a little bit clumsy as well, that it doesn't really flow. We don't actually get a sense of who this person is or what their interests are. It's very, very vague. So on the whole, not a strong statement, and something that I'm sure none of you would put together. But hopefully this next one that I'm going to talk through with you will be able to give you an idea as to how to write a more successful personal statement. Specifically, this one is for medicine. So the opening, we can see that they demonstrate really clearly their ambition to study medicine and what's led to that. So an interest in science and their desire to help people has pushed them towards this career choice, and that they acknowledge very early on that medicine will be a challenging but rewarding career, and that it suits their attributes. Okay, so they're already acknowledging, I'm not saying that I'm coming in as a person that's going to fly through medical school, and they're giving recognition to the fact that working in this area can be really challenging but also really rewarding. We then move into this second paragraph where the individual is talking about the medical experience that they've had. And I will hasten to add here that, you know, virtual work experience, events like today, all of that is relevant. Please don't worry if you don't have specifically experience in a GP or a hospital or anything, because this is just an example. But what this whole paragraph shows is that they have a really good insight into the profession. And what's really key is that they've reflected on this experience and pulled out specific examples to demonstrate that they have an understanding of the profession. So I'll take the part in the first sentence there in blue, where they talk about witnessing the incredible bond between a doctor and patient when a consultant knelt down to comfort a distressed patient. And that's a very simple thing, but that's something that to that patient, someone coming down to their level and talking to them and looking at them, giving eye contact, has highlighted to this individual the importance of empathy, okay? And through that, we've been given a really specific insight into what this person has gathered and reflected on from their work experience. They show, again, more profession about the calm, profession insight, when they talk about the calm and professional manner and being adaptable and resilient. And again, they give another specific example talking about, being shown this in theatre when a surgeon has little time and has to juggle between patients. Again, we get more specifics when we start to hear about teamwork. And he doesn't just say, oh, I know teamwork is important for the profession. He says, I've seen that, the close working relationship firsthand, that they're sharing information, that they work together in a multidisciplinary team, and their goal is all the same. They all want to help their patients. And it's fantastic insight. And really, really good reflection on going to one of these experience days and coming away thinking, right, what did I actually see and what did I learn from that? Again, in the third paragraph on this page, we again get more specifics. And I think, again, this is what's really, really important. So this is when they start to talk about their key qualities and attributes for medicine. They talk about a professional attitude and a high level of trust that they've developed through experience in a care home. Being adaptable and resilient, of course, they're vital for medicine, but he doesn't just finish the sentence there. He says, here's how I adapt. One man might want to talk to me about rock and roll and music, and another man just wants to play dominoes. So you'll see he's given specific examples to back up what he's saying about, I am adaptable, I am resilient, and here's how I can show you that I am, rather than just making the statement and not giving it any weight with an example. So really good reflection in these parts. Again, as we move on, he starts to talk about his experience of being head boy at school. And again, we see the same sort of thing here. They talk about how they're developing these important skills and they give specific examples. So trust and responsibility, he's put in a position where he is in charge of organising school events. He leads a group of prefects, and leadership skills, again, we've seen are important for medicine and dentistry. So he's really backing up, his experiences and the skills and qualities that he's building, again, with specific examples. We move into extracurricular activities in the second last paragraph there. And again, he talks about specific things to highlight some of the skills he's been building up in different areas outside of school. So he further outlines his achievements, that shows commitment, absolutely, and that his work ethic is high. He, attained the achievement within 6 months, as well as balancing that with schoolwork. We hear about his volunteering, which is super. And again, he backs up the notion of his good work ethic by talking about football and his resilience when, his last team struggled to keep going. He joined a new team. So again, pulling everything back, and something like a football team might not be immediately obvious that that's relevant to medicine, but everything this individual mentions, they link back to the course and say, this is why it makes me a strong candidate for applying to medicine. And again, when we get to the end, we get this lovely balance between not sounding arrogant and not sounding too humble. He again takes the time to recognize that medicine is a challenging course, but that he's passionate, he's committed, and he's determined to push through, and that he's outlined his skills and attributes to candidate. So this is a really strong example of what we want to see, and the importance of really what I'd like you to take from this session more than anything else today is that feeling that whenever you do something like this, this event today, whenever you go to an online session, there's virtual work experience from the Royal College of General Practitioners that's available online. There's also one, I believe, by the Medical Schools Council. Oh, no, it's not. I tell a lie. It's Brighton and Sussex Medical School. They've put together a virtual work experience as well. But don't come away from that and do nothing with it. Try and reflect on what you've actually gained through that. What have you learned? Think about a specific example that stood out in your mind, and try and reflect on those to the best of your ability. So some quick do's and don'ts, and again, my Bugs Bunny gif is back. Definitely check your spelling and grammar, okay? We want to avoid making mistakes. We don't want clumsy descriptions, so make sure you're checking your spelling and grammar. Get others to check as well. Be clear and concise wherever possible. Don't waste space listing courses, and you know, make everything as relevant as you can to your chosen course. We want to avoid sounding over the top or negative, you know, saying, oh, I'm applying to this because I don't know what else to do, or something like that. You know, keep it positive and upbeat. Show interest in the curriculum. Again, use the full text allowance where you can, and have a really good structure and flow to your statement. Please make sure you do drafts of this. Write it, rewrite it, write it again, keep working on it and moulding it so that it becomes the best piece of work it possibly can. Avoid using colloquial language, so language that you use when you're talking to your friends. Don't use that in a statement as you wouldn't when you're writing, you know, an English essay or whatever it might be. Avoid those cliche openings. Again, think carefully about why you're applying to medicine and dentistry, and really try and give us an insight into that. Again, avoid mentioning a specific university if you possibly can. And obviously, the last one in the don't list is fairly clear, but don't plagiarise. Don't take other people's material. Your statement is about you. So really quickly, we'll go through personal statement getting started and the method that we tend to suggest to our individuals, and then hopefully we'll have a little bit of time for questions. So writing your personal statement, getting started, we really suggest you break it down and start to look at these individual sections. So think about why medicine, why dentistry. Think about how you've investigated the profession, and that could be things like today, that could be through watching you know, documentaries, that could be through reading books, as well as, you know, GP experience or anything else you've done. Think about your qualities that make you a good candidate, and we reflected on some of those earlier. What skills have you been developing through your extracurricular activities? Have you got a part-time job? Have you done some voluntary work? How have they contributed? And what are your future ambitions? That's sometimes a good thing to include as well. What do you hope to do after you've studied medicine? When you're doing it, you can kind of work with some Post-it notes if you like. It allows you to kind of just write some buzzwords and fill in around this area here, you know, what you can pop a post-it next to each of these just with some kind of buzzwords initially, and then start to develop them using that ABC method. So speak specifically about the activity, speak specifically about the benefit that you've gained from taking part in that, and how does that relate back to the course, whether it's medicine or dentistry, whether it's nursing even, or midwifery or anything else. Try and always link it back to the course. And then once you've kind of developed and done your ABCs, you can start to kind of put together a structure. And if they're on Post-it notes, it means you can move things around a little bit as well. It's horrible when you sit in front of a Word document and it's just blank. So sometimes this makes it easier for our pupils to break it down, and then you can start to work on a draft. Next steps are top tips, and Sherlock's there because you really have to go over it with a bit of a magnifying glass to avoid those spelling and grammar mistakes. Proofreading is so important, so make sure you do that. Include those virtual activities and research that you're doing. I appreciate COVID has given us some challenges this year, but like I say, loads out there in terms of virtual activities that you can do. And write meaningful statements. Like I say, don't mention things that aren't going to link back to medicine or dentistry. Try and keep it really specific. And when you start off, don't worry too much about the character limit. Get your thoughts down, and then you can edit things down as you go. Final thoughts and tips before I open up to questions is be prepared to write and then write again and then rewrite again. Drafting is going to be important, but I promise once you've done and got it in, it'll feel great to prepare for an interview knowing you've got a really strong statement behind you. Don't worry about what other people have done. I so often get kids coming to me saying, oh, but so-and-so's got, you know, 4 weeks experience in a GP because his auntie owns the surgery or whatever it might be. Don't worry about that. It's about you. And I promise whatever you've got is enough. You will have so much to talk about. So please don't worry about what other people are doing. Be specific. Link everything back to the course. And if you aren't sure about something, please ask. Speak to guidance teachers. others in your school that might be applying, go to the UCAS website, try and get advice wherever you possibly can, because that's really going to help moving forward. So I'm going to really quickly stop sharing my screen and hope that everybody has seen everything they need to see. Oh gosh, I think I'm a bit frozen. Sorry, bear with me. Right, I think I'm back. Can everybody see me and hear me okay? Super duper. So I'm just going to have a quick look through the questions, and I can see quite a lot here, so I'll get through as many as I possibly can. I'm sorry, I'm seeing some comments there about the slides being hard to read. I'm really sorry about that. What I can do is potentially share them with Catherine or with the organisers. I don't know if they'll be able to circulate. My apologies about that. Like I say, sometimes using that presenter mode can be a bit challenging. My apologies for that. So the best way to reflect on things, I see that comment there from Martin. Thank you for that. Really, I think it's about breaking it down, thinking about what you learned, what you kind of observed, what you took away in terms of new knowledge, new experiences. There are a number of different reflective cycles, and I should note that reflection is something you will have to do throughout your studies at medical or dental school. So it's really great to get in the habit now. We're hoping to put on our website, which hopefully you'll be able to see in my profile, you'll be able to access our website where we have a whole bunch of resources, and we're also going to put our reflective diary there. They are freely accessible and available, so you don't have to be signed up with Reach or live in Scotland or anything to access them. But really, I think reflection comes from talking about what you learned, what you gained from that. And again, it's really about being specific. And I see George there has mentioned the Gibbs cycle. And yeah, George, that's one we use with our pupils as well. So have a little Google of that because it's really, really helpful. Yeah, what now what? Absolutely, thank you for that, Joanne. That's another great one that we use with our individuals as well. So please have a look at Joanne's comment in the chat there. Just having another quick look through, I was told it might not be worth writing about books you've read. There could be a better use of words. I think that absolutely depends on the situation, Mohammed. I think that there are some books out there that if they have specifically resonated with you, and I know some people that have worked with me in the past have mentioned books like Adam Kay, This Is Going to Hurt, and specifically this year, where maybe you haven't had the opportunity to go into a GP practice or shadow a doctor, or somebody within the profession, they're actually really valuable because we're getting their reflections and still building an understanding of the profession more broadly. So I think they're absolutely okay to do, but equally if you have other actual experiences that you want to prioritise above that, then use those first. But absolutely, I think, talking about research is absolutely fine. So please use them if you feel like you'd like to. Do you think it could be bad to be too specific about your dream to be a cardiothoracic surgeon? Yeah, okay, so I think it's absolutely okay to do that, and specifically at the end of your statement to talk about, your future goals and what you'd like to achieve after medicine. Ambitious that it's not. If you get into medical school and you work really hard and work your way, you have an interest in a specific area or a specific specialism within medicine. So I think it's absolutely fine to do that. And one of my pet hates is people feeling like, oh, my personal statement is too medical. I don't think it can be. What I would mention is that if you do mention something specific like that, or if you mention a specific procedure or branch of medicine, just be prepared to talk about, because it's very likely that they'd pick up on that and say, okay, can you tell me what a cardiothoracic surgeon does? So you need to be able to say, yes, I have an understanding, and here's my understanding of it. So just be prepared to do that as well. What did you mean when you said past tense in the dummy personal statement? So just talking about things, jumping from kind of past tense to future tense to present tense, and kind of moving around a bit clumsily. Also, I think there was a point where the individual said, I was captain of the football team. well, why are you no longer captain? And that would maybe raise a few questions as, okay, well, why are you not doing that anymore? So it's not that you have to be doing something all of the time, or you still have to be doing something when you write your statement, but just be careful around phrasing and around tenses there. As I'm applying to medicine for the second time, do I have to write a completely new personal statement? So you can use your previous one as a template, but I think it's absolutely important to update that. What have you done in your year out potentially that's really added to your skill set and added to your development or your understanding? So keep it as a template. You know, you've got things there that are going to be really useful, but please add to it, because there'll be other things you've done in your year of space to come back. And also your resilience will be noted by the fact that you're applying for a second time. That's a huge thing I tell my pupils all of the time. Resilience is so important for medicine, and actually reapplying is great because it shows that you've bounced back and you've said, right, I'm still really keen, I'm still going to go again. So talk about that as well. Is it good to mention books we've read? Yeah, absolutely. You can do that. If you want to reflect on them, like I say, super to do that. And yes, I will try and share the slides afterwards, Martin. Personal statement, when should you start writing that? Beginning of year 12. Now you'll need to excuse me because I'm Scotland, so my brain gets a little bit funny. But really you want to start writing it in the summer before you apply. So the summer ahead of that October deadline should really be when you start pulling your personal statement together. That being said, reflection should be done throughout any activity, whether you're in year 11, year 12, you know, whatever you might be doing, start to keep a reflective diary on these things. Can you advise us on intro and conclusion? Well, hopefully, George, we've been able to see a little bit of that in the example. I think absolutely your introduction, don't overly stress about it, but try and just be honest about your motivations for studying medicine. Avoid things like, I've dreamed of being a doctor since I was 2. Just be real about it. Say, okay, what is it that has driven you to that? Has it been a personal experience? Maybe you have had a procedure yourself, or a family member has, and you've thought, oh, that's really interesting. Try and think about your specific experiences. And for concluding, like I say, be humble. Just say you're aware that, you know, the challenges that medicine would set you, but you feel ready for it, and you're really, it's your passion to pursue that. Talk a little bit about your future ambitions as well. You know, if there is a specific area you want to work in, that's great. Tips for demonstrating scientific knowledge and interest. This could be maybe if you're doing a little bit of, you know, up here it's hires and advanced hires. I guess in there it's A levels. So if there's a specific kind of science project or something you've done at school, you can mention that. But please don't get too caught up on that, and be aware that, again, if you mention any kind of scientific kind of knowledge, you will be asked to expand on that at interview. It's very likely they'd pick up on that. You don't have to show a huge understanding of anatomy or the human body in your personal statement. It's really more about the skills and qualities and attributes, and that's what we're looking for, more than it is, okay, this person clearly has a vast understanding of biology. But absolutely, if there's something relevant you've done, or a science project or a research project you've got involved in, then please do feel free to talk about that as well.
Amy,
sorry, I know we're running over time, Catherine. I'm conscious that I'm keeping everybody behind. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. If we could have maybe 2 or 3 more questions and then wrap up so that people can go to their next session.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm just having a little look. Would my personal statement be the same for medical as a neuroscience degree? Yep, one statement for all your choices. So try and link in any kind of relevant skills and qualities that you need, problem solving, you need for both, things like logical thinking, all this kind of stuff is going to play in. So try and think about how they cross over, but one statement for all. Another little look. When does talking about realities of medicine become too negative and not realistic? I appreciate that. I think, you know, showing an awareness of NHS in particular is great, and actually interview going in and being able to say, okay, I'm aware that there are issues, and if that's what's led you to medicine, if that's what's made you think I want to contribute in a way and I want to see improvement in that area, then absolutely you can mention that in your statement. I wouldn't be too negative about it, but you know, showing an awareness of it isn't going to do any harm. How do we get your profile for the web? I can post that in the chat here for you. And I think any advice for the applicants? Yep, talk about resilience and talk about what you've done in your gap year between applying and what you've continued to build up through that. I am conscious of time, so I think what I will do is I will post my email address here and the link for our website. And what you can do is access our resources from our website there. If there's, like I say, Reflective Diary isn't up just yet, but keep an eye out. We're hoping to get that up when I leave in a couple of weeks' time. So here is the website. It's only a reach, I will say, is only open to very specific individuals who live in the Dundee area. So it's not something that if you live in England or anything you can join, but our stuff is absolutely accessible for everyone. And my personal email address, I'm going to pop down in here as well. That's in the chat there. And please feel free to email me. I am actually about to take a couple of weeks of annual leave, but I return to work on the 11th of August. I'm really happy. If there's any questions I haven't had time to answer, I'm sorry. Please do email me and I'll answer the best I can. Thank you so much for joining. It's been lovely to see so much interaction, and all the best to all of you. Best of luck moving forward.